I'm dropping grapes. It's weird, but I'm good. Well, then she calls me right away and she's panicking because I thought I said, whatever I thought I said, I didn't say. It came across jumbled. We'll call 911. She's, Travis, please don't. So I go lay down and 5 minutes, I'm like, yeah, something's not right. It just felt sluggish, you know?
Is it dangerous to sleep when you're having a stroke?
Oh yeah.
Like it kills
Bad
you?
idea.
Okay.
Oh yeah, kill you. You should be prepared. The effects of a basal ganglia stroke that your husband has had, the effects are irreversible. I lost my speech, I lost my memory, I lost my cognition, my motor skills. I lost everything. He is the miracle. And I reeled that sermon with this. I said, I still believe in miracles. I still believe in modern day miracles. I believe that God can heal your body. I believe that God can heal your marriage. I believe that God raises dead things back to life. I believe that he can heal depression. I believe that he can set the addict free. I mean, I've seen it. I've been in ministry for 30 plus years. I've seen it over and over and over. And so if anybody's watching this, I want you to know God can do it.
Travis Hearn, appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a nice surprise when John connected us. And, kind of the similar story real quick of, Daniel was, saying, he was looking forward to meeting you. It's just kind of a weird thing, but it was probably 6 months ago. I'm always looking I just don't want to be another podcaster. I want to add real value to people. And, I'm on my faith journey and the things that I'm doing. And while I haven't met you or I didn't know you, I had obviously heard of you. I mean, here in Arizona, a lot of people know of you. And I thought about having you on this podcast. That was probably 6 months ago. And so it was really weird to me when John, just out of the blue, he didn't hit me up before and be like, hey, I'm going to connect you. He just connected us.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that's crazy.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
And again, I had heard about, what had happened, the stroke, and, while not knowing you, or just knowing that, that's horrible. But it was also, just the different connections and how this worked. Again, my niece just got back from a mission, I think, to Belize with your guys' team.
Yeah.
It's my stepdad's cousin works with you guys.
Okay.
Randy Phillips.
Okay, that's crazy. Yeah. Great guy.
Known him my whole life. Yeah, it's my stepdad's cousin. So yeah, crazy thing. I just found that out this morning when I was looking at your website, but that's wild. But so all these crazy connections, but I want to obviously, get into the story of what happened to you in the stroke, but I think we'll start out with something a little bit light. So
yeah,
you just told me 23 years now, this is 23rd season, Suns chaplain, Phoenix Suns chaplain.
Yeah.
So here's my question. Why can't we bring home a championship?
Bro, we've been so close, man. I don't know. I think we'll get it done. We'll get it done. Nobody wants it more than me.
Yeah,
I don't think. 23 years in, nobody wants it more than me.
So close. So
I can guarantee nobody's prayed for that championship more than
him.
Maybe wanted it, but I don't think anyone's prayed for it more
than
him.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we had a sweet couple years back, and just so close, and it just killed us. But,
so close.
Yeah.
I'm curious, though. I mean, because I know a little bit about the beginning of your story, but I do forget. How is it that you got involved and kind of introduced to the sports world, specifically with the Suns?
There's kind of like a human answer, and then there's what I think is the answer, which is more of a spiritual answer.
I'd rather have the answer.
Yeah. The spiritual answer.
Yeah.
The spiritual answer is I get this question all the time, like, how'd you get that gig? People say the word gig, and it kind of rubs me wrong because I'm like, it's a ministry, it's not a gig, it's a ministry.
Yeah.
And I'm their pastor, and athletes need a pastor, celebrities need a pastor, celebrities need to be able to go to church without signing an autograph and getting asked for selfies. And I grew up in Arizona. I'm an Arizona native, played basketball, baseball, football, quarterback, point guard, catcher. At the end of my senior year in high school, I got a DUI. I didn't grow up in church, and I got arrested for DUI. Actually, my basketball coach, he was my coach for 1 year, 45-year-old teacher. His car broke down, and he's like, hey, my car broke down. Can you take me to the All-State, selections? And so I did. Ironically enough, it was at Phoenix Christian High School, and I dropped him off. He comes out, 2 hours later, and he's like, congratulations, you made, first team. He's like, hey, you want to go celebrate? And he was a single guy, but he had this girlfriend that lived down the road, and I didn't know her. But I was also street smart, so I thought, this could be a setup. Like, so I'm like, what do you mean celebrate? You know, and so anyway, he bought alcohol and we got trashed. You know, like I said, I wasn't a Christian. I tried to drive home and got pulled over, got a DUI, got thrown in jail. And my mom had been on fire for the Lord for a few years at that point. So she that night with her pastors led me to the Lord. And so I'm going to answer your question. So the kind of the journey goes, we had this missionary come through. This missionary is talking about going on mission trips, like your niece going to Belize, right? Like there's this mission trip to Mazatlan and it's a 10-day trip. And man, I don't know if y'all have ever been sitting in church and you're just like, this dude's speaking to me. Like this is like, I don't think there's anybody else in the room. Like
quite often with you, brother.
I'm like, I'm supposed to go on this mission trip. And so signed up, registered, started doing all the training and everything. And then I got this packet in the mail, maybe a month later. And it's from the Arizona Interscholastic Association, which governs all the high school sports of Arizona. I open it and it's a congratulatory packet that you made the Arizona All-Star team. Well, they don't have that anymore. This is like back when we were kids. They don't do an All-Star game anymore. But that was something, man, that like I had attended the All-Star game since like 6th grade, maybe 5th grade, and watched every year.
And now you were in it. Yeah.
It's 12 players from the West. We're going to play on this team against 12 players from the East. And so I was like, dude, let's freaking go. Like I was so excited. Flipped the page and it was, dude, I'm not even joking, the exact days of the missions trip from beginning to end. I mean, beginning to end, the same 10 days. So I really was challenged early as a new believer in Christ. Like, what am I going to do with this? You know? And so I chose the missions trip because I felt that was what God told me to do. That I had to call the AIA myself. They thought I was crazy. Coaches thought I was crazy. Parents thought I was crazy. Friends thought I was crazy. The AIA told me, which you can't, an athlete can't even call the AIA now. It has to go through a coach then to them. But they told me, couldn't you pick a missions trip 51 other weeks? And I said I could, but this is the one God told me to go on. So to answer your question, I think that God allowed me to be in pro sports ministries because he saw that my heart was for him and that I was willing to give it up, that I was willing to lay it down. And I think when something is your idol, it's hard to lay it down. And the idol wasn't necessarily basketball. I loved basketball, but it was like what it did for me. It's like a fake.
It's what gave you validation in your life.
Value, validation, affirmation. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like be the best at all cost. And that affirms me, you know? So I really felt like it was like, hey, God's like, do you want to go shine the light on yourself at this game? Or do you want to shine the light for me on this mission trip? And so the earthly answer is I didn't go looking for it. I didn't apply for, I mean, I've worked with Major League Baseball for 12 years, the NFL, the Cardinals, the Suns. I only still do the Suns right now. But I think God honors when we put him first. And that's the answer. That's my spiritual answer.
Yeah, that was a good answer, man. That was the one that I wanted. You know, it's funny because actually when I look back at high school, there was a time when I was a junior that I was challenged with the exact same situation. I was going to Albania on a missions trip, but we had our biggest passing league that summer. We were going to SDSU and I forget where else. I think Cal State San Marcos to go play. And I'd applied for missions trip and it was like, yep, you got to sacrifice it. Yeah. You were probably a lot better than I was though to be on an all-star team. So it's probably a bigger sacrifice for you.
I don't know about that, but you know, I had somebody say one time when my oldest daughter, she's 23, she played college basketball. And, you know, everybody's like D1, D2, D3, NAI or whatever. And even when in middle school, you're like, do I go to a 2A, 1A, 5A, 6A school? Like, you know, and it was actually a Division I coach. He goes, let me tell you what I've learned. I've coached D1, D2, D3, NAIA. And he goes, big time's where you are. And, you know, so what was big in my mind or what was big in your mind, big time is big time. Big is big. Sacrifice is sacrifice, you know? So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. It's cool because we did actually have Sean Merriman come in here last week, and it's cool. I have a huge passion for sports. So I love everything that you do. I love the industry that you're in. And I love the fact that you're able to use God's word to really create that influence, because I think that there's not a lot of people that are doing that. I've got a really good family friend named Brad Sesmat. I'm not sure if you know who he is. He runs Sports 365.
Okay. I think I know who he is.
Out in Gilbert, yeah. but similar type of, influence that he's trying to spread as well.
Yeah.
But one of my questions that I had that I was telling him that would be probably pretty funny to ask is, what's the biggest thing that people, because we, as fans, we tend to worship our teams. We tend to worship the athletes. Like there's something that's crazy, and they're just human beings. But in your perspective, like, what's one of the craziest things that you've seen that you can speak on that's behind the scenes that the fans don't really see?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple thoughts on that. The first thing is, when I started, I was 26.
Yeah.
When I started with the Suns. And I remember, like, especially being an Arizona native, like the Suns, dude, like the Suns, that's my team. Like, but I remember being in that first year, like, dude, like, this is crazy. Like, I remember the first time I saw Shaq and Kobe.
You're like
in
starstruck.
The hall, they were on the Lakers. Oh, totally starstruck. Like, just like, dude, I walked around the corner. I called my wife, Natalie, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I just walked right past, like, Shaq's leg as big as my body. Like, it was wild, And here's where it changed in a hurry. So Chapel with the NBA is 1 hour before tip off. So we don't go by a clock. We go by the shot clock.
Really?
So when the shot clock gets to 60 minutes till tip off.
And how consistent is it?
It's every game. Yeah, every game. Wow. So from 60 to 45, 15 minutes, you have Chapel. Chapel is just, man, it's just like, it's both teams are invited. So say we're staying, we're playing Golden State or something, like, you're going to have both teams, not the whole team. It's whoever wants to come. It's not mandatory, but it's always very, very well attended. And so in that first year, there was a player, Chapel's over, everybody gives their, bro hugs and fist bumps, and they leave the chapel. The chapel room's right next to the locker room. So right now it's between the two locker rooms, and an athlete walked back in, and 7 foot, like, superhero, and it's just me and him, and he starts to weep. You're talking about 45 minutes till tip off, and and he starts telling me this devastating life story. I mean, devastating, and obviously I can't talk about details or anything, but like some of the worst drama you could find yourself in, And so I prayed with them, and I said, obviously we can't, man, like, we can't fix this now. Like, he's going to run out and everybody's going to go crazy. And like you said, be a fan. And so that is where the starstruck went away immediately, because they are humans. If you cut them, they bleed, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, relationally, financially. People don't understand how, certain athletes can even be in financial. It's just bigger money is bigger money, but it's bigger stuff. It's bigger properties. It's bigger investments. And all it takes is something to go wrong or somebody taking advantage of you. And so my second story is, there's a great friend of mine. He played, I think, 14, 15 years in the league. He lives here locally, Cedric Sabalos. And he used to come to my chapels, every chapel, for a good decade. And he just doesn't work with the Suns now anymore. But he said one day, he goes, hey, if you start a church in Scottsdale, I'll be your first congregant. And I said, man, that means so much. I said, where do you go now? And he goes, I don't. And I said, why? And he goes, because I can't. And I said, what do you mean you can't? He goes, no, I can't. He tells me this story about, he went to this church with his wife, and he said, the usher asked everybody to stand to pray. And he goes, I'm 6'8", man. He's like, I'm 6'8". I stand on the aisle. I usually don't ever stand. I just sit because I'm 6'8". He goes, so we stand. He goes, I'm praying, and the pastor's praying. And he goes, I'm just standing there like this. And he goes, I feel this tap on my shoulder. And he goes, I kid you not, it's an usher with a piece of paper and a pen. And like, can I get your audio? He goes, I just looked like, shook my head like, no, man, not now's not the time. So I've seen it all, man. I've seen it all. My kids have grown up with NBA players, NFL players, NBA players, UFC fighters in their house since the day they were born. Like, the Hearn family knows no different. And our goal is to our goal is to be a safe place, a place of hope and healing for people that, OBJ is a part of my ministry, our church family. He told me, I'm so thankful that I can go to your church. Like, I can't go anywhere. Like, I can't go anywhere ever. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm in Germany and 1,000 people line up and are like, so that's what we try to be, man. Like, give people an opportunity to be a human.
Yeah, that's powerful, because not to say they need it more than the next person, of course not, but yeah, those are souls that need saving too, and they have a lot harder time. There's a lot more isolation there because of their notoriety. So that's really cool, man. That's really cool that you're there.
Isolation is a great word, because think about this. If we don't have celebrity or fame or influence or whatever, you're going through hell. You go, man, I don't go to church. You can go to church, you can sit in the back and cry, and you're by yourself, and like you can kind of hide.
Yeah.
But like if you're well known, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
I was just going to say it's interesting too, because most of the dark agendas that are pushed in this world, they're usually positioned with influencers. Yeah. And those are the people that, these kids grow up worshiping. And like you hear like the Doja Cats that are showing up at the awards dressed as the devil from head to toe.
Yeah.
And then you see that one. Did you see that actress from Argentina? I believe it was, had a huge cape on her dress. And while Doja's posed as the devil with horns, completely painted in red, you have this Argentinian actor that's walking up the steps with the face of Jesus on the back of her dress. And the security guards go to cover it up, and they keep covering it. Wow. And she's literally pushing security guards like, move, get off of me.
Wow.
And they won't. And they're like, you need to get inside. They're like, get inside. And it's in front of everybody on TV. And I'm like, man, it's so in front of our face right now that I don't know. I mean, I just turned 25 this weekend. I was curious, and I've always wanted to ask you, like, what's your biggest piece of advice in the world that we're growing up in right now? I feel like every generation probably says it, that it's like, this is the last generation. Like, things can't get much worse than this. I don't know. What's your advice on that? Like, where we're at as a world right now? I know biblically, like, we're not, as Christians, we're not trying to avoid the end times, but selfishly at the same time, like, I want to get married. I want to have kids. And so I don't know, it's kind of hard to juggle with that. It's like, do we want to get to the end times in my lifetime? Do we know it's coming? Do you think it's coming right now? And, for people that are at that unrest right now with where the world's at, what's your advice?
Man, my advice would be the same thing it was for me. It's like, I think for me at 17, when I was 17, and obviously you are a Christian, I was not a Christian, but I grew up around it. And I grew up, what I say is surrounded, but not surrendered. And there's a big difference, man. Like, my mom loved Jesus. There was Bibles in our church. I went to church every now and then, went to Sunday school as a little kid. Middle school, high school, I started, going my own way and partying and drinking and smoking and doing whatever. But like, I don't know when the end times are. I mean, the Bible, Jesus said we don't know. But it does seem like it's ramping up toward it. I'm old enough, man, like in the 70s. I was born in 75. So it's like, I remember there was a movie called Left Behind when I was a little kid. Or it wasn't Left Behind. It was
Nicolas
called
Cage is Left Behind.
No, yeah, it was called Thief in the Night. And the whole depiction was like, the mark of the beast was a tattoo, and it was 666, and everyone's like, oh no, I'm gonna get a tattoo. But like, that's all you could imagine at that time, and now you can, now we can put a chip in everybody, and like it's just a different day and age. I think, man, that Jesus talked about the end times, and I believe it's in Matthew 24. I could be wrong, but I think it is. But and he talks about, like, birthing pangs, like it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. Like the evil is going to get stronger and stronger. And I think we see that. I think it's gotten stronger. I think it's gotten more out in the open. I think it's the world's a desperate place. I'd still get married if I was 25 and single, and I'd still have kids, and I'd raise up champions for Christ, because the world needs the light in a dark world, And I think a lot of times people are the world's just confused.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bible talks about the devil being the great deceiver in Revelations. He talks about in Corinthians, that he appears like an angel of light, right? He disguises himself like an angel of light. So I think there's right out evil. And then I think there's people that are living in evil, but don't even realize it's evil, just because we've been so deceived. And all the pressure, Jesus is hated. 2,000 years later, he's still hated. Like he's loved, but he's hated. And, I think
it's not at the Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I saw that as well. It just like, that's nonstop now.
You had to take the Last Supper and put transgenders on it.
That's becoming the new normal. It's just like whatever evil is evil, or whatever is defiant toward, the word of God. And I have a compassion, man, and an empathy for people. Like, it's like when Jesus, the woman's caught in adultery. And they go, what should we do, Jesus? Because the Old Testament law says we should stone her to death. And he goes, hey, whoever has no sin casts the first stone.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I don't have a stone to throw. Like, I am a sinner saved by grace. So I have empathy and compassion for people. But I think, from answering your question or just commenting along your comments, yeah, it's getting really dark, man. But I have a compassion for them, not a hate. Like, I have a compassion that hopefully they'll see truth, and find love. And like, you're not on a different team than me. You're a human created by God and in God's image. And
That's a tough thing. That's especially because we do live in such a divisive, politics, all this stuff. That's very tough because, and you see a lot of people, and I'm even, have done it myself, where it's like,
Mhm.
You don't believe like me or you don't think like me, so you're against me, so
That's
I'm
right.
against you.
Mhm.
And honestly, probably recently, it's just like that's not the way. Like that's not the way. And what you're saying, you have compassion for those people. It's like, they see things differently than me for a reason. There's something that
Yeah.
happened in their life, some whatever it is, trauma or whatever. Just grew up differently
Yeah.
with different beliefs, and it's like, that doesn't make them worse than me, better than me. We are just humans, and it's like, yeah, when we can sit down and have just good conversations and be compassionate towards others, it's funny how many breakthroughs you see when you do that. It's like, okay, maybe
Yeah.
we're not so different. Maybe we connect a lot more than we thought we did. And I think
Yeah.
that's what we're missing. Guys like you that are saying that, just have more compassion for these people. And you'll see people change their hearts, change their minds, and God works in mysterious ways. And
People like to blanket statements from microphones or platforms or that there. And when you do that, there's a separation between me and whoever I'm doing that to. But if you get into a relationship with somebody, they don't think like you, they don't act like you, they don't believe like, but you are in a relationship, right? And that's for me. It's like I try to be a bridge builder and not a wall builder. Everybody's trying to build walls, man. And like, so let's build the bridge and let's find common ground. And it doesn't mean we'll agree. We may never agree, but I don't agree with my own family. They're my family
Yeah.
forever, but we don't always agree on everything.
Yeah.
We don't see eye to eye on everything, but like, and I think that goes back to what Jesus is talking about. Like, hey, number one, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Number two, love your neighbor as yourself. He didn't say love the neighbor that thinks like you. He didn't say love the neighbor that looks like you, acts like you, has the same political view as you. He says love your neighbor. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. Period.
Yeah.
Love your neighbor. And I think that's what we try to do.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, just sitting here and listening to it, I mean, you know me better than anybody. You know how much I struggle with that. Like, I'm very opinionated and I'm very about my ways, and politics like really turns me up. And as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm like, yeah, dude, my whole life I've told people like our two things that we're called to do is love God and love others. And I personally, I love people and I really hate people. And it's hard because I struggle with it. Like I told my parents not too long ago, they're like, you're so social and we love like, what you've been able to do with your communication skills. And I'm like, honestly, I'm a recluse and I hate people. And it's really a struggle for me because I'm like, with where the world's at right now, like it's hard for me to not get disgusted with people that don't believe in the same things that I do. And I find myself like, man, why am I so unhappy and so angry with like where I'm at with these relationships with people? And it's like, well, you can't pick and choose the relationships that you want. Like if that's how you feel about people, then it's going to blanket everything in your life and your heart's going to turn cold.
Yeah.
And honestly, yeah, I mean, just to be vulnerable with you, that's where I'm at right now.
I think it's like this, like too, does that help?
No.
Does it help whatever your agenda, the heart's agenda is? Like if your heart is, I wish they thought like me. Does it help just to be angry and pissed about it and like trumpet your, like it doesn't, like it doesn't do anything. So I think for me, it's like, and I mean, I feel that because I'm the same way, but it's to try to find like the empathy and the sympathy. And like, it's like if I'm arguing, if you and I are arguing over something that I strongly believe in, you strongly believe in, the more we argue, the louder we get, that it's not going to change my mind. You're not going to change your mind just because I get more aggressive and more louder and more angry. Like it's just going to make me put more walls up and wall you completely off. And I think that's the position even at the church that we try to take. Like, I have no judgment on any other churches, ministries. Like everybody's called to do what they're called to do. For us, what we're called to do is like we don't talk about politics. We're not talking about this side, that side, the other side. Like we're to talk about Jesus. We're going to talk about Jesus and
Let him handle the rest.
yeah, and let him handle the rest. Not be political, be biblical. And I know that's but there are biblical things that are political. I've been in all the man. You know how many people I know that don't think like me that love Jesus Christ like passionately. And when it comes to policy, you're like, I mean, okay. I mean, I guess I could kind of see that. I guess I could kind of see
When it
that.
starts getting involved with like children and crime and pedophilia and stuff like that, and like sexual changes, like that's where I start to get like,
yeah, of course,
abortions.
But there's always that line. So for you, the line is where that, okay?
Yeah.
For some people, it might be, I don't know, border control, like that, it's like border control. And I'm like, I mean, I agree with that as a nation. Like, I mean, I guess if you don't have a border, you really don't have any. But at the same time, is it biblical? Is that what it is? That's biblical? Just draw a line? Like, we freaking took it over. Like, we blasted people out of Mexico and call it Arizona now, where you get to enjoy here. So you're okay with a lot of it, but, or not okay with some. But, like, so it's like we have to be careful just to be like.
Because we condition ourselves, yeah.
Yeah, so it's okay to. I'm not taking a position. I'm throwing a thought out.
No, it's a good thought.
Here's the thought: like border control. It's like shut them down and like drugs coming in and like. I mean, I'm not saying that is a bad perspective, but for the people that go, but that's not biblical. You just because they live over there, you just shut them off. Like, where do you find that in the Bible? And by the way, we took over this whole country, all of it. There's nothing in the United States that we didn't, but somebody before us went, that's ours. Get out of our way or we'll kill you. Okay, we're going to kill you. And then, you know what I'm saying? So, and you just keep going back historically, wherever you are geographically, the same is true. So my thing is, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in, man, just giving the hope and the love of Jesus Christ. You said it. One of you said it. Like, let God do it. Yeah. Let God do it, man. Let God do what only he can do. He's the only one I know that can change the human heart.
And it's crazy, and you kind of talked about it a little bit, but it's crazy. Like when you surrender to that, because we want so much control. We got to control this. Like, no, they're not going to get it unless we tell them, unless we do. When you surrender that control, it's crazy to see how God works and makes things happen that you're like, there's no way that was
no doubt. Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that a lot, especially in the past couple of years, with some people that I've worked with and that have worked for us. And, even including him, even though he grew up Christian and obviously still is Christian, and just the changes in his life and the growth. And same with me. I'm not perfect, man. I'm on my journey and I'm loving it right now. It's powerful in my life right now, in my family's life. I saw that in my wife. She had some experiences when she was younger that, turned her off to church, and so did I, but I, wanted to start getting back into church and doing my thing. And she was super resistant, like didn't want to do it. And then, I just we just slowly started like, no, let's go Sunday. Let's go. And, that was 10 years ago now. And we've been going ever since. And now she's on it more than I am. She's pushing me and I love it. And I love seeing, that change. So I want to switch up a little bit here. So we got connected last week. We had a phone call. On that phone call, you told me a story. A lot of people here in Arizona, especially obviously in your congregation, know that story. But you're telling me the story, and it was kind of more of a intimate behind the scenes, like what really happened. I only heard like, oh, you had a stroke, but it wasn't like the details. Honest, straight up, like had me in tears. I'm like, dang, like this is crazy. And I know that story is a story of of miracles, and you wanting to spread that word that miracles do happen even now. And you are, it's the book's basically done. The fire is for you. Mm-hmm. But I would love to get into that and to hear that story so that, we can get that story out to the people.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I think to kind of frame that in 2010, Andre Wadsworth, my partner, he's my executive pastor. In church, you call him an executive pastor. In business, you might call him a business partner. But he's we did this together. And so we started Impact Church and building. And that first Sunday it was 200 people and has grown into, what it is now. And so like a normal Sunday is north of 10,000 people and a whole lot of, streaming and things like that. And the reason I say all that is because eventually our worship team, the musicians, the singers, they got to a space where like they're just so good, they're so anointed, they're so gifted that we wanted to start writing songs that would bless the world and not just the walls of the church, you know. And so 2 years ago, we wrote this song called "He Is the Miracle," and Impact Worship, "He Is the Miracle," and it was the first song we had ever written, recorded, produced professionally. And on November 11th of 22, we we released it to the world. It went on every music platform. Remember, we've never done this before. We don't know what we're doing. Like, we literally don't know what we're doing. And so then on Sunday, we made a big theme out of it, and I preached a sermon, "He is the Miracle." And I opened that sermon with this. I said, I still believe in miracles. I still believe in modern day miracles. And I believe that God can heal your body. I believe that God can heal your marriage. I believe that God raises dead things back to life. I believe that he can heal depression. I believe that he can set the addict free. I mean, I've seen it. Been in ministry for 30 plus years. I've seen it over and over and over. And so if anybody's watching this, I want you to know God can do it. God can do it. I've seen him do it. And so that was the theme. And that Sunday, the song kept climbing the iTunes charts. And we were like, man, is this thing going to go into the top 100, like for the Christian music genre? And we were like, dude, it went to like 90 something. Then it was like, kept going, 70. And then it was 50. And then we were like, this is crazy. And
I did not know that.
yeah,
That's incredible.
It went to number one.
What?
Number
That's
one.
crazy.
Number one. It went to number one. And so it was crazy. Like, we were on the ultimate, like, earthly high without getting high that you could be on. It was just like, this is crazy. And we celebrated, and we had so much fun. And then Monday, we were pretty tired. My wife and I, we went and took cold plunges. Doctor supervised 2 minutes, sheets of ice in a bath, and didn't like it. And I know everybody's on the wave of recommending it. I don't recommend it. And a few hours later, we stopped by the church, and we picked up my youngest daughter, Jaslyn. Jazzy was 12 at the time, and we picked her up, or 13, and we picked her up, and we went to the church. And we were in my office Monday. We're never at church on a Monday, never. And we're in church on a Monday. My wife had to do some work, and we had left her car from the day before from church.
Right.
We never do that either. We never leave a car. We always take both cars home because we have to drive separate because I get there way earlier. And so we're at the church, and I'm holding a handful of grapes, and I'm about to take Jazzy to the store. She wanted to go do some shopping, and Mama's gonna go do some work. Well, I started dropping grapes, and I'm like, that's weird, babe. Daddy's dropping grapes. And she's like, yeah, that's weird. And I kept dropping grapes, and I'm thinking it's something with the cold plunge, because that was the only one we've ever done. We'd never done one. So I'm like, man, is something going on with this cold plunge? Like, is my hand like not totally back or whatever? And so we get in the car and we drive to Target.
Oh no, that's crazy.
And I mean, I don't know, I'm having a stroke. I mean, I text my wife when we parked the car, and I said, hey, I'm dropping grapes. It's weird, but I'm good. Well, then she calls me right away, and she's panicking because I thought I said whatever I thought I said, I didn't say. It came across jumbled.
Yeah.
So she's like, me and Jazzy are walking inside, and we barely got inside. We see people that we know. We're talking to them. Natalie's like calling me, Travis, please go back out to your car. Please go back out. I'm going to come pick you up. And I'm like, babe, like, I dropped some grapes. like I'm good, you know? No, please. You don't even know. You didn't send me what you thought you sent me. And so I said, okay.
It's like a voice memo that you sent her?
Or no, it was when I parked the car in the parking lot, I sent her a text.
Oh, okay.
It just came up jumbled.
Yeah.
The words were backwards, and it was confused. And so she came, she picked me up. We go home, and she's begging me to call 911. And I'm like, babe, I'm not calling 911. Well, she wouldn't let it go. And I said, hey, listen, I'm going to go sleep for 1 hour. Because I felt a little sluggish. But like, what you hear about strokes, like, my face isn't hanging, like, my head doesn't hurt. Like, I'm not even thinking that the thought's not even in my head about a stroke. And so I said, I'm going to go sleep for an hour. If I still feel kind of weird, like we'll call 911. She's, Travis, please, please, please don't. So I go lay down, and 5 minutes, I'm like, yeah, something's not right. It just felt sluggish, you know?
Is it dangerous to sleep when you're having a
Oh,
stroke?
yeah.
Like it kills
Bad
you?
idea.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Kill you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bad idea.
Got
Which
it.
I mean, didn't know. And I didn't know I was having a stroke.
Right.
But I just thought, dude, it's been one heck of a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always exhausted on a Monday. I mean, I don't even talk on a Monday. Like I'm a zombie. So I'm chalking it up to that plus the song, you know, plus the ice bath and all that. 5 minutes, I said, no. And at the same time, Natalie walked in to check on me, and she's like, I'm calling. She gets on the phone with paramedic 911, and she said, I think my husband's having a stroke. And that's the first I had even, the thought never crossed my mind. I'm thinking like, there's no way I'm having a stroke, you know? Paramedics, I mean, they must have been down the road because they were there within probably 3-4 minutes.
Wow.
And I felt like there was 7 or 8 of them. I mean, they said, lay on your back. I'm in the living room. I'm on my back. And they're doing all these tests. And the tests actually came back fine. And Natalie still, you know, please telling the paramedics, please tell them to go in. And so I'm laying on my back and I go, so by the way, mini miracle number 1 was that my wife's car was at the church.
Okay.
Because she could come get me. So if that was a normal Monday, we would have had my car. I would have been coming back for Natalie later on, but she had a car. So she's like, please stay there. I'm coming to get you.
Right.
So that was divine. Miracle number 2, mini miracle number 2 is, you know, I'm laying on the ground and I looked up to the paramedics and I saw this one guy. I looked at him and I go, what do you think I should do? And he goes, Pastor, as a member of your congregation, I think you need to go to the hospital. And I mean, I didn't know the guy went to my church. I've never seen him.
I was getting ready to ask you that.
Never seen him in my life. And I go, okay. I said, let's go. So he put me on a stretcher and I'm still fine. And I'm trying to comfort my wife and daughter. And hey, I'll be right back. I'll just get some tests. Don't worry. Dad will be home soon.
I wonder if it was coming out like that.
And
was your speech coming out clearly?
That part, okay. At that time it was. And then when I got in the ambulance, I don't remember anything. That's how fast. I got in the ambulance. I don't remember the ambulance ride over. I went to a hospital. They did a brain scan. They called my wife and said, your husband's brain is bleeding aggressively. We have to helicopter him to a level 1 trauma center because we don't have the expertise to deal with the neurological situation. So I'm helicoptered to a level 1 trauma center. This is Monday. And I lost my speech. I lost my memory. I lost my cognition, my motor skills. I lost everything. So I'm in the hospital. And so, you know, I don't know what day it was. My everything, you know, is dark. Yeah. And I don't remember a lot. But she was telling me on the next day or the second day or the third day or something. I'm like, yeah, like I can't make words. The doctor said, hey, we want you to be prepared because the type of stroke he had, number 1, it's the worst stroke. It's the worst stroke. It's in the worst area. It's in the basal ganglia area, which is the brain stem. So if you have a stroke up here, it might affect, you know, one area of your life, your speech. If you have a brain bleed over here, it might affect your emotions. If you have it, well, I had it in the brain stem and everything goes through it. So it affected everything. It wiped out everything. So he said, or she says to Natalie, you should be prepared. The effects of a basal ganglia stroke that your husband has had, the effects are irreversible. So, you know, they're telling my wife, well,
you're going to be a vegetable.
This is your new husband. Yep. You're going to be a vegetable. And so, you know, they'd come test me on the hour, every hour. It's the whole right side, completely numb, you know, touch your nose and it would kind of like touch, you know, my chest, lift up your leg. I couldn't, you know, they'd ask me questions. What's your name? Date of birth? What year is it? What day is it? What's your wife's name? Kids' name? I didn't know anything. And then I want to read this. I should have had this prepared, but this is so good, you guys.
Very good, yeah.
This is so good. So in the moment when the physician told my wife that, you know, basically, like you said, this is your new husband, my wife, she's a woman of God, man. That's what you want, bro. by the way. I don't know where you go looking for a woman, but you need to be at church because that's where they are. You need a woman of God. We've been married almost 27 years, dude. And it is, I mean, she is incredible. So the doctor tells her that. She's like, nah, I'm not claiming that. And she goes to the word. So I got the Bible up. God takes her to Acts 3:16. Acts 3:16. By faith, in the name of Jesus, this man whom you see and know was made strong. It is in Jesus' name and the faith that comes through him that has completely healed him, as you can all see. And, I didn't know that happened until later, but it's like God. I'm sorry, it's God. I mean, the Bible's a big Bible, man. There's a lot of verses in the Bible, of 66 books in that Bible. And, it was like God giving that to her. And also her going, I know doctors are incredible. They're experts. This is what they do. But like, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to listen to the great physician and what he says. And that's what he said. And so on Wednesday, doctor came in, or some medical worker. Sometimes I get it confused. I should have my wife on these podcasts with me. But he came in and he's doing his normal.
We'd love to do round 2, by the way.
Yeah, we could do round 2. He came in and did the test. Date of birth. Anyway, I don't know any of it. He gets to he goes, what are your children's names? Now remember, I'm like blah, 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 like that. What are your children's names? And I said 40, and I knew it's the weirdest. It's the weirdest feeling. I don't even know how to explain it. It's almost like, y'all, I assume both been drunk in your life. It's almost like right before blackout, like you're not really there. You're so far deep down gone. But it's like I said 40, and I knew something was, I knew this was bad. And I had tears in my eyes, and Natalie had tears, and I said, as plain as day, count it all joy. And the medical worker said, what did he say? And Natalie said, he said, count it all joy. It's a scripture from the Bible in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 2. It says, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience, and to let patience have its perfect work in you. Another translation says perseverance. Let perseverance have its perfect work in you, that you might be whole and complete, mature and complete. But that was crazy because like, I can't remember my own children's names, but I can remember a Bible verse in context.
It's like God
of the situation.
Yeah, it's like God put it there to give your wife peace
and
hope.
Yeah, I mean, and for the doctor.
Yeah.
Because
you were doing something that he said wasn't possible, right? Like
yeah.
that in and of itself, he was like, oh.
Yeah.
So maybe the doctor started thinking kind of like your wife did, like maybe they're
like, so man, the healing began to become pretty rapid. And I was released from the hospital Friday early evening. So what was probably going to be, a month or months of being in the hospital and then going to a rehab facility and being a vegetable was, I got out of the hospital. And so I believe, and I don't know if you guys, I know you guys believe this, but I don't know if the people that watch your podcast will believe this. I'm crazy. So I believe that everything is spiritual first, then it's physical. I believe that we live in a world of spiritual warfare. So you say, I get angry at people. It's not the people. Ephesians 6 says in verses 10 through 17, it talks about the armor of God. And it says, we battle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and the powers and the darkness of this world. What it means is, if we could put goggles on and look into the spirit realm, we could see demons and angels warring over our lives, warring over cultural norms, warring. So we look at the human and go, oh, that disgusts me. It's not the human. It's the demonic forces that are in the invisible realm. So I think I preached, we had a song that pierced the world. He is the miracle. It went to number 1. We had a sermon that I said with my own lips, I still believe in miracles, modern day miracles. Then I have a stroke the very next day, a guy who has no health problems, who's not on any medication at all of any kind, who on Thursday, the week before, I had a life insurance
consultation.
Well, it wasn't a consultation. It was the approval.
Yeah.
So
they had just done the physical.
It was the approval, and I passed with the A+ rating.
Like a physical and everything.
Yeah. Blood work, physical, everything.
It's crazy.
On Thursday. So on Thursday, insane. That part. Then on Friday, the song. Then on Sunday, the sermon. Then on Monday, the stroke that supposedly, what was going to take me out. So the way I view life is that the devil tried to take my voice away. Mm-hmm. He tried to take my calling away. The enemy tried to take Natalie's husband away. The enemy tried to take my kids' father away. The enemy tried to take their pastor away, their chaplain away. I was sitting at home. One of the coolest moments for me is it's when Coach Monty Williams was the coach, and he calls me. The game's barely over. He calls me on FaceTime, and I'm like, Coach Monty, I'm not, I'm home now. It's the second week, so I'm home, and I answer FaceTime. He's got all the coaches and all the players in the locker room all behind him, and they're FaceTiming me, checking on me, showing love, showing support, and the support, the support was incredible. I mean, it really showed me a lot. Like, I need to be that to others more than I have been. Like, ministry's messy, man. You got to get in the trenches with people, like, the OR room, so to speak. And mm-hmm. So I just think, I remember Melvin Booker's Devin's dad. He saw me at the arena. The doctors wanted me to continue some sense of normalcy. So I couldn't preach at church for a while. So I was bringing in guest speakers from all over the world. But they wanted to know if I could still do chapel. So I'm like, yeah, those are my people. But would it be okay if you do it and even mess up? I'm like, yeah, they're my people. So my son would drive me to every Phoenix Suns chapel game, every game, go to chapel. I'd sit there with the blood pressure monitor on my arm and monitor my blood pressure, doing chapel. I'd stumble on words. I'd get scriptures backwards. I'd look at Josiah, my son. I go, what am I trying to say? And he'd be like, no, Dad, what you're trying to say is, and that was part of my rehab, my healing journey, But I remember that second week I'm in the arena and I'm still dazed, Led Zeppelin, dazed and confused. And I'm standing there and I remember making eye contact with Melvin Booker across the 100 people between us. And he just beelined over to bear hugged me, and he's got tears and he's like, we need you. You're not going anywhere. Keep fighting. And that's what this book is about. The book is like me going, listen, the devil tried to take me out and he doesn't fight fair. The enemy does not fight fair. So it's like, okay, if that's what we're doing, then I'm going to fight. And one of those ways I'm going to fight is I'm going to preach sermons like I've never preached before. I'm going to write songs like I've never written before. It's like God gave me a whole new bag to pull from. And the same with the book. It's like this book is called The Fire Is For You, because we all go through fires. Mm-hmm. The Bible calls, there's 3 major themes for for trial in the Bible. Storms, right? Valleys, and fires. They all mean the same thing, but they have a little bit of a different thought to them, right? So you talk about storms of life, man, that's raining down on you. Like, dude, are we going to make it through this thing? You talk about the valleys and those low places in life, rock bottom. You talk about David saying, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we're going to go through shadows, valleys. I like the word shadow because shadow is not death. It's a very different location. The valley of death and the valley of the shadow of death, 2 different deals. So why shadow? Why does it say shadow? Well, because shadows represent fear. And shadows are always bigger than reality. Shadows have never hurt anybody. And anywhere there's a shadow, there's a light. And if you turn and look to the light, the shadow falls directly behind you. And Jesus said in John 8, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness. So my thing with The Fire Is For You is like, man, we all go through fires, but we oftentimes curse the fire, or we think the fire is there to burn us into ashes. But the Bible talks about the fire is there to purify us and to refine us. And I'm imagining that your listeners and viewers probably right now got some fires going on. And so this book isn't even it's not about me. It's the story but it's about God and what God can do for the reader. And my prayer has been that, like, when people put their hands on it, they find healing and they find hope. The LA Tribune just interviewed me about this book a couple weeks back, and they said, if people could get one thing out of this book, what would you want it to be? And I said hope, because if you don't have hope, you don't have anything. Hope for my marriage, hope for my prodigal child, hope for my health, hope for this cancer. I mean, dude, there's hopelessness all around us, all around us.
Yeah.
And my prayer is that that book, it brings hope.
Dude, that's such a powerful story, and like genuinely, and just I mean, I take a couple different meanings from it, but yeah, I mean, the hope, and yeah, there are, I mean, so many people, including myself, go through fires, and yeah, I think I can think back on some of those, and it's just like, yeah, you want to curse those, like, gosh dang it,
Yes.
why is this happening? And then, yeah, the more you get in the word and really, read the scripture, it's like, there's a purpose for this, and it's the forging.
Purpose is a great word. What'd you just say?
Forging.
Bro, forging. Yep. That's actually on the subtitle of the book, the word forging. The thing you just said, I hope resonates with everybody, because when you think about fires with God, there are no wildfires. They're always controlled fires. And, so if somebody's going through the fire, hopefully you hear that like it's a controlled fire, and there's a reason for it. You just said purpose. Like, there's a purpose for our pain. There's a purpose for our problems. And like, I'm not going to waste the pain. I'm not going to waste the pain. My family's been through hell and back for 2 years. I still do rehab. I mean, I rehabbed aggressively for 6 months, 6 days a week, 6 different rehabs, treatments, hyperbarics, and and my speech therapist found out I was a preacher. So she wanted me, she said, hey, how about you come preach sermons to me as a part of your speech therapy? But, cognitive therapy, all of it, physical therapy, like, it was a grind, man.
Yeah.
And I think this is in the book too, but it's like, it's worth the fight.
Yeah.
It's worth the fight. If it's a marriage, it's worth the fight. If it's, sobriety, it's worth the fight. If it's healing physically, it's worth the fight. If it's whatever it is, man, it's worth the fight. Never stop fighting. Keep fighting,
Yeah.
and allow God to, to fight with you, fight for you.
Yeah, that was, I never heard it that way right now, but that just spoke to me a lot, because when when those fires happen and you are trying to fight them yourself, you're trying to, I can do this myself. I'm gonna get through this. I'm gonna figure this out, and it's feels uncontrolled. It's just chaos.
Yep.
And then when you do get in the word, and that's where you're still going through the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's somehow, it's like, okay, this is controlled. I can get through this. You have that comfort that that only God can give you, and that was powerful. I'm still that. I like that.
Yeah, because and if you look to scripture, which we do, but like anybody, if you look to scripture, it's like, sometimes I think the Bible it's kind of intimidating, because it's like this big book, it's ancient, and you're like, where do I start? What do I read? But like, I think about the Bible, and I just said the valleys, right? He says, you shall fear no evil. And then he goes, for I am with you. Why not? Why should I be? Because I am with you. When you look at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're thrown into the fiery furnace. And then the king comes back and he goes, wait a second, I thought we threw 3 in there, but it looks like there's 4 in there. And the 4th looks like the Son of God, because God is with you in the fire. When you look at the storms, the disciples are going through a storm across the Sea of Galilee, and they go wake Jesus up. Jesus taking a nap, man. Like, and he gets up and calms the storm, peace be still. But like, he's with us in the storm. And that theme is, I think that's a great story too. He's taking a nap. Like, he's not worried about what we're worried about.
Right.
He's kind of got it under control, He's not worried about what we're worried about. But yeah.
It's powerful. Yeah, well, look, man, I'm really glad that you came out today. This was really powerful for me. I know for this kid too, and this kid's like a son to me. But I think, well, first of all, when is the book going to be out?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the pre-sales of the book are on November 17th, which is the 2-year anniversary of the stroke. It's the Sunday anniversary. It's really, the 14th is the actual anniversary. but the hard copies of the book will be out in the middle of January after the inauguration's over. But people can find the book on travishearn.com,
Okay.
TravisHearn.com, or Amazon, either way. But yeah, so it's coming, and hopefully. And by the way, dude, you know what? I've been looking at this thing the whole time that you got on. What is that?
This is our company, so it's the N's for nerd. We're basically a sustainable construction.
So I just looked through about 100 N's because my wife's name is Natalie, and I wanted an N right on my preaching wrist. So when I'm holding the microphone, the whole world could see that N is my wife, Natalie.
Oh, nice!
That is the same N. I just took the middle lines out because
that's so
it's the same N. I just took the middle middle little lines out.
It stands for Net Zero Energy Restoration and Development.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I got one last question for you. We'll wrap this thing up. And you kind of mentioned it a second ago. And I know for me, this is kind of the journey that I'm on. And I know a lot of people who deal with the same thing. You just spoke about, people see the Bible and it's like, oh my gosh, well, where do I start this work? And I'm kind of on that journey right now. I've been a Christian, basically my whole life, but I'm just getting to where I'm really digging into scripture and trying to understand it. But it has been crazy for me. And honestly, what really helped me a lot is that series, The Chosen. It really helped just break it down in my mind. And now when I read, it's like, okay, I get it. But I know a lot of people struggle with that when they're getting into it and reading the Bible. And where do I start? And what does this mean? What recommendation would you give for people who are trying to learn scripture and grow? And what's the kind of easiest way to ease yourself into it? Or is there a way? Or what would you say?
I think everybody has a advantage in 2024 than when I did in 1993 when I gave my life to Christ. Because in 93, there's no internet, there's no Google, there's no Bible app. There's a Bible.
Yeah.
But I can relate to that because I remember at 17 or 18, my pastor asked me if I would fill in for second grade Sunday school. Right. And I'm like, yeah, fill in for second grade. And I'm like, what do I don't even know the Bible. I don't know anything. And I went to the pastor's daughter and I go, hey, your dad asked me to fill in for second grade Sunday school. I was thinking about maybe doing something on Jonah and the fish. Would that be cool? Oh yeah, I think that'd be cool. And I go, where would I find that story? And she goes, oh, there's a book called Jonah. And I was like, no way. Funny there. But I think it's simple in this fact that there's an Old Testament, there's a New Testament. The New Testament starts off with 4 books: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Those 4 books are literally about the life, the birth, the life, the death, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Those 4 books are Jesus, his miracles, his teachings, his parables. I think John's the best one to start with because it starts out with this. It starts out in John 1:1. The first verse is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Right? So it's taking us back to the beginning. And so, and then I think from there, I'd probably read Matthew, and then I'd probably read Mark and Luke. That's how I'd start. Then I'd probably go to Acts. I'd probably read the 4 Gospels, starting with John. The other 3 aren't necessarily, doesn't really matter what order. I'd start with John, then I'd read Matthew, Mark, Luke, then I'd read the book of Acts. Because the book of Acts is the birth of the Christian church. In other words, the church after Jesus died and rose again. And so that's where, we find the story of the Apostle Paul and his missionary journeys. And I think I would go to the Acts. But yeah, it's broken up into, there's major prophet books in the Old Testament. There's minor prophet books. The first 5 books are, the Pentateuch, or the old law, Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. But I think just take it in bite-sized. We're going to live with this word for eternity. So it's just take it in bite-sized pieces. I do think the Bible app's incredible today because you can go, hey, I want to read it in a year. I want to read the New Testament in a year. I want to read the Gospels in a year. And you can even get partners that you pair with, and it kind of helps you with not just accountability, but study and thoughts. And what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I got to meet Bobby Grunwald. Bobby Grunwald's the guy who started it, who created the app.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's incredible. I was sitting with him at a concert, and we didn't know each other, but we were sitting by each other in Tulsa, and Elevation Worship was doing a concert. And so there was a small group of people that were sitting together, and it's that turn to your neighbor and shake hands. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? You're like, what are you doing? He said, you know, and where are you from? What do you do? And I was telling him, and then I go, what about you? And he's like, I'm the guy that created the Bible app. And I was like, oh yeah, like really no big deal. Like just like no big deal, but like world changer. But the Bible app is great.
Yeah. So what's really helped me too is honestly is ChatGPT. So before I go to read a book, I'll basically, hey, in layman's terms, what is this book about? You know,
That's a great
idea.
It
really kind of just helps me dial in and know, what that specific book is about.
Yeah.
So
I wonder how accurate it would be if you just copy and pasted Psalms and said in layman's terms.
Hey,
You know,
maybe
150 chapters. Yeah.
Well,
a little bit complicated.
Yeah. Well, look, man, honestly, I'm super excited for this book to come out. I can't wait to personally read it and connect to it again in a different way. But, we thank you for coming out, and, hopefully you'll see this face in church more often. And yeah, man, appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Here, man.
Been great.
Yeah, absolutely.